evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Friday, y'all.
Good evening.
We had a good week, a nice Thanksgiving. Some of you are still partying. Don's got to go and get his disco shoes back on after the show and off to a meal, off to a dance, I'm sure. No, maybe not. Yeah. So, we've got Joe. We've got Tusi Corals on. Hey.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, Joe. Obviously, me and Jamie are huge fans. So much so, Jamie has told me in the green room he's put on his special Tusi Corals underpants on tonight. So if you see him itching and moving around, it might be because they're a little bit tight for him, but he's a huge fan. So
thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited, to be honest. I always wanted to be on your show. And
a little bit crazy at times. We will apologize now. Okay, so we've got a number of different questions for you. We appreciate that you guys watching at home. Thanks for the 40 of you that so far tuned in this Friday evening. Like I say, I know it's Thanksgiving and you've got Black Friday deals to be rushing out for this week. But no, we've got some scheduled questions for you. We are going to go around the panel a little bit. But if you have got anything you want to ask Joe, then please throw it in the comments section as always. But let's start by saying good evening to those of you that have tuned in to join us. We've got Tony Close Reef has joined us this evening. Happy Friday, Tony. Hope you're good. John Wright won't be a Friday evening, should I say, without you, John, in the chat. Ronald McDonald's here as well. Hey. Thanks, Ronald. Hope you're good. Mose Reef is with us. I know for a fact, Joe, some big fans of yours in the comments tonight. Definitely. We normally only have 2 watching. Anthony's with us as well. Good evening, Anthony. Hope you're good. Let's have a look. What else we've got in here? Coach, good evening. Happy Friday, my man. Hope you had a good week, mate. Benji's with us as well. Dong's biggest fan ever with his favourite list of trace elements. Gazar's Reef.
Hello, Gaz.
Scotty Boy's with us as well. Evening, Scott. Hope you're good. So is Woody. Nice to see you. Mr. Owen. Happy Friday to you. Daniel Gunner. Thanks for tuning in. Harry Bow, hope you're good. Amazing video you did the other day, by the way, mate. I know it takes a lot of time and effort putting it together, but definitely credit where it's due, mate. Amazing video. Dirty Devil's Reef, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Reef Reese, nice to see you in the comments, as always. We've got Triggerfish with us as well. Good evening, good evening. Hello, James. Nice to see you. Julian Paul, hope you had a good week. Dan has uploaded a very emotional video of him shutting his main display down over the next couple of weeks. He's so sad to hear, Dan. But he's staying in orbit. He's going to carry on with the Nano. And as I've said to him many times, as soon as it gets a bigger tank, hit me up. I'm sure Ronald will as well. And we'll send you some corals out for sure. Harry West is here. Good evening, Harry. Hope you're good. Acro Killer in the house. What's up?
Hey, good to see you.
David Boy. Evening, good evening, good evening. Haley Barr. Thank you very much. The OG Tommy Sharon, thanks for tuning in. Much love to you both. What else we've got in here? Jimmy Imme, even. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hope you're good. Baby Dave is with us as well. What else we've got in here? Steve is with us as well. Happy Friday. And Dan's here, Mr. Crusty.
Hi, Dan.
As always, we'll do our best to give you a shout out to those of you that join us just after the 8 o'clock mark. Well, thanks for the 50 odd of you that have tuned in. So, Tusi, over to you. What's been happening? What's going on?
Same stuff. You know, it's been a busy week, actually, busy month, because between work at Polo, maintaining my tank, and you know how this hobby goes. You cannot, get lazy with it, because it will humble you with some way or another. So, it's also, I'm contemplating of renovating the tank, because it's a little bit beyond overgrown, where now I'm starting to have issues with lighting flow and corals attacking others. It's always every 2 years, and it's always around this time of the year, which is Thanksgiving and the holidays, where I normally redo it, clean it out, take the big stuff out, replant.
Is that your way of getting out of socialising with other family and doing jigsaws and other party family games? Maybe I'm doing the tank. Is that your excuse?
No, this is, my family knows me. It's like I come from work. I don't even, go anywhere but to my tank to see how the tank looks. So they know that this is my my whole life. I enjoy it. It's also, I find it to be therapeutic and really like the challenges of it. As much as I use the word challenging, it really is not. I think that we are hobbyists that like to complicate things. I mean, the hobby got so much easier, in my opinion, to all the things that we have, all the tools that we have to do, if it's chemicals, if it's mechanicals, if it's lighting. It's so much easier than when I started, that anyone can succeed, and it's a simple hobby. It's just that you have to be disciplined and you have to be patient. Patience is the biggest key in this hobby, and if you're patient and you're disciplined, the rest, nature have to take its course. You cannot make something grow faster because, you want to have a tank that looks like someone else's tank. And that's my philosophy of this hobby. It's really a good hobby, a great hobby, and as expensive as it is, I think we make it more expensive by being impatient and being undisciplined, that we have to buy things over and over and over again.
If I remember rightly, the story goes that the tank is, we're over the 20-year mark. Is that right, or around the 20-year mark on the tank?
Well, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
The story goes that the tank's around 20 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, my tank is it's closing on 20 years old. It's a closed loop system, and which a lot of hobbyists would stay away from it because they're afraid of problems, which I did have problems in the past. And it's same sand bed, same rockscape, same everything. I've never done anything to it as far as like maintaining, if it's the sand bed, I don't vacuum it, I don't clean it, I don't do anything. I mean, I maintain it with nature. I mean, I don't think we go vacuuming sand beds in the ocean. So, use the right amount of snails, Nasara snails and stuff like that to keep it aerated and keep it, turned over. Use the right cleaning, crews, and that's about it. It worked for me. I mean, all my friends tell me that I'm beating every odd of the old tank syndrome, which I don't see it that way. The biome, if you have a good biome in a tank, it takes care of the ecosystem. I mean, it's all about the biome. And don't put meds, because as much as we think that the meds, come out and get exported, I think they do other damages that on the long term, it could become a bigger problem. So the biggest meds I've ever done in my tank is basically Interceptor to take care of red bugs or white bugs, but that's about it. And it works for me. I mean, it's 20 years later.
Exactly. Am I right in saying though that it was the cost of you bringing a third party company in to maintain the tank that suddenly propelled you to learn about reefing so you could maintain it yourself?
Yeah. So when it started out, I mean, I would have done, knowing what I know. I mean, think about it this way, right? If you have 20 years experience and you were to do the tank over today, would you do it exactly the same? The answer is no. The answer is You've learned with your mistakes through the 20 years that you're going to build it, and you're going to do all the weaknesses that you have in your tank, because everyone have a weakness, to make it better, right? From your own mistakes. So what happened was, and that's how I got into the hobby and learned the hobby actually, is that I had hired someone to install the tank, plumb the tank, and then every Friday they used to come and do a water change and bring corals. And every Friday was costing me, $1,000. I'm like, whoa, this is gonna be costing me more money than my mortgage on my house. So I had to learn pretty quickly how to do a water change by myself, and this way I don't need them. And that's how I started, like, getting involved on Reef to Reef and Reef Central, and that's how I learned. And again, it was a closed loop system mainly because I I really liked LPS corals, not SPS. So I didn't want to see power heads, right? So I figured the
Yeah.
closed loop system is going to be, it's going to be my flow, it's going to be my everything, and LPS, it was going to be enough for them. And then, of course, after 2 3 years, the SPS bug came in, and I'm like, am I good enough? You know, which, yes, we knew that water needed to be cleaner, nutrients had to be lower, but we didn't really know, like, what made SPS happy grow, color. There weren't as many SPS available back in the day, for the exception of, a Monte Cap, a Horita, which we used to call the dirty water acro. It grew in anything, dirty or clean. And if you remember, there was a time that when SPS became more, favorite to reefers, it was like everybody was aiming for zeros, if it's zero
Yeah.
phosphate, zero nitrates, and alkalinity at 12 and 14. I mean, think about it. This was like the times where all of that was wrong. And that's what we were doing. That's what we were all aiming for. It's like if you didn't have zero, you were not, you were not a hero. Like you had zeros, you were a hero back on these forums. And the little that we knew then, and now we know that zero and especially high alkalinity, you know what that translates to, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so then, I got into where I am today. And again, people think that I know everything. I really don't. There's a lot more that I think we need to learn about some of these husbandries of corals. But I truly believe that if you have a good biome in your tank, I think anything can grow. And the most important is the biome. In other words, you need to allow the system to grow by itself, and bacteria and all of that, and sponges and what have you. I mean, it's like, I do have a lot of sponges in my tank. Okay, so a lot of friends of mine believe that the reason my tank is possibly more successful is because of that. Where if you research it back, from the times of Steve Tyree, I mean, he grew corals. You know, his filtration system was, sponges. So I, the biggest thing that I'm learning about is that, in my opinion, is that when you strip your water, if it's removing nitrates and phosphates through, if it's you're using ROA, for an example, ferric oxide, or you're removing, with whatever, Fosgard, whatever you are trying to, you are removing so much more with it, okay, from the water column that we don't even know what it is. And I think that is the biggest damage that anyone can do to a tank. So if you could have a tank that's well balanced, when I say well balanced, is that the right amount of fish, which means it translates the right amount of food for the fish, which translates again to the right amount of poop, which is what corals need, to the amount of corals that you have. So if you have frags and you're starting out, you don't need too many fish. And that's the mistake I think that a lot of guys do, where they load up their tanks with a lot of fish because obviously they want to see life, right? And now you're feeding all of that fish and your nutrients are building up and building up. And then you get yourself in trouble with, if it's algae, if it's, your tank is getting all kind of issues, if it's slime, if it's this, if it's that. And it's all because you are doing too much at once that you don't need to, because your tank is not there yet. You need to add things as the tank progresses, and that's maybe also one thing that maybe it helped me in my success in my reefing, where I don't even think I have 20 fish in my tank, for all the corals that I have. So I feed my fish once a day, and I don't export my nutrients via anything. I do have a small algae reactor, which I basically is not even growing because I don't change it. I let it fill up and that's it. And my nutrients are always the same because the nutrients are being consumed by the animals, and the animals are your corals. So I think it's the balance. If you find that balance, the balance should start from the beginning, not like fighting to get the balance, by doing all kind of things that then you're removing all other stuff. Like, for an example, like we talk, there's a lot of talk about, DOC, right? The soft, and yellowing compounds and all of that. And I asked a question to a friend of mine, recently. I said, okay, so you talk a lot about high DOC, how bad it is for our tanks, but you don't talk about how bad low DOC could be to our tank. I said, what is the lowest I could be in our tank? I said, no one talks about it, right? So if you have very dirty water, is not good, but what about very, very clean water? It's also not good, because now certain elements are not binding to anything. There could be elements binding to those DOCs in a sense, that the corals can feed from. So, that's where I'm looking into right now, where what is the right level of clean water? I have to say, I've received corals from coral growers that the water is basically like tea. And these people are growing incredible corals. So is it real that, yellowing compounds are damaging our reefs? There's a lot of things that we still don't know, in my opinion. And
Joe, there's something that we do know for sure, and that's your tank is amazing. And I'm just going to jump straight in. And for anybody that's in the comments that hasn't seen it, boom, yeah, you should have by now. But if you haven't, and for those of you that already have, let's just have a little bit of a recap for you. be back. There we go. Thanks for sharing that, Steph, with us. So yeah, that's an amazing tank. Obviously, I've seen it. I've watched it numerous times. Like I've just said, if anybody in the comments hasn't, there you go. But I didn't know you've got the frag tank plumbed in behind you to the side of it until I've just seen
Yes, yes, that's where I keep the smaller, higher end corals that I grow. That I don't know that they like the halides per se. You know, and I test back and forth. I put one in the frag tank, which is strictly LED lights, and I put another piece of the same piece under my tank. So I experiment what grows better under LEDs in terms of not so much what grows better, but also what colors better under LEDs versus halides, and vice versa. You know,
Jamie, just this time next year.
It's yeah. I was saying to Joe off screen, like, followed this tank for years and years now, and obviously the tank itself is a showpiece, a spectacle. Of course it is. For me, I'm a bit of a nerd. I like the engine room behind it and what's underneath the tank, and it's just incredible. So some of the questions I've got for you, Joe, which we'll get through tonight, are based around what is underneath your tank, bizarrely. I think I would spend most of my time sat where you are now in the room behind. It's complete reef porn for me, what you've got there. And then I've seen over the years, I've seen your sump several times, and I've thought, Christ, is there any room for anything else? Because it's so packed full of equipment and gadgets and gizmos that you've tested and stuff. So, first question is there any gadget in your tank now that you've taken out that you find you don't need or was a waste of time?
well, believe it or not, it's the space is very tight, so everything looks very congested, and it looks like I have a lot going on. When it really isn't. What's underneath my tank is a very, very small sump that barely can hold the tank water if I lost electricity. That's how small my sump is. The only thing, what I have down there is basically all the way in the corner, which you can't even see on a video or a picture because it's far left into the corner, which is the closed loop pump. And then I used to have a calcium reactor, which took most of the space. So then I removed that and I replaced it with canisters to do the 4-part modern reef dosing. And then next to it, I have the algae reactor, and my skimmer is in the sump. And then I have a small reactor that when I used to use ROA back early on, when I didn't know much about reefing, I turned it into a zeolite. I fill it up with zeolite rocks, and that's about it. And then I have my dosers, which is I've been using the GHL dosers from the first old original dosers that were created and brought into the US. I'm still running them. And that's about it. It's really, really very, very simple system. But it looks very, complicated because of the space, because the space is so small. But other than that, no, I haven't removed anything because there's the one thing that I will eventually, I think I will take out will be the algae reactor because I don't believe it's doing anything.
How long ago did you?
And it's not only that it's not doing anything. I think it's removing. If it's doing anything, it's removing things that I really don't want it to remove.
Yeah, traces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
How long ago was it when you pulled out the GFO then? When did you stop using that?
I stopped using it when I did the algae reactor, which was, I would say, about 9 years ago. besides the coral death that I used to get every time I replaced a GFO, I lost acros because again, it strips the water too quick. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like when you strip the water too quick and you strip the water, period, corals don't like it. So, and I used to hate having to clean the GFO before I change it, you know, especially in the wintertime here in New York when it's 15 degrees outside. My wife ain't gonna let me wash that in any sink because it will be all stained with you know, the orange rust that comes from it. Yeah. And then when I did the algae reactor, I started doing, you know, more carbon dosing. So the carbon dosing definitely helps. Now, that's another topic by itself where it does work for me. It does work for me. Some hobbies will tell you, but you could also be, you know, feeding the bad bacteria in your tank, right? Yeah. So you have to have the right balance of bacteria, obviously. And how do you know unless you're going to send your water out and then, you know, find out how much good, the bad versus this, that, and the other. I do run a UV sterilizer all the way in that jumbo mumbo underneath my tank. That's very hard to find. I mean, think about it this way. For me to replace the light bulb, I have to remove 3/4 of the equipment from underneath there to get to it. That's how, you know, tight it is. And that's basically the tank itself should be your refugium. Okay.
Yep.
When you have a refugium sometimes tend to challenge your tank. That they're going to consume more than your tank is going to consume. And that's, again, it goes back to what I said. Don't jump into a refugium if you want to do one when you're starting a tank, because there's going to be nothing for your corals. Yeah, it's going to go all in your refugium. And then you wonder why, you know, because people do refugiums to avoid algae, to avoid this, to avoid that. Honestly, I never had algae in my tank. I never had cyanobacteria in my tank. I've never had any type of things like that, because it's all about the balance. It's all about don't overfeed, you know, don't do too much amino acids and this, that. It's like someone on the on a forum says, oh, I dose amino acid, I dose this. So they jump in doing that because that's what that person is doing. But what is that person growing to what you're growing? What is that person doing? How old is his tank to the age of your tank? There's many things that you cannot just copy somebody.
Every system's unique, isn't it?
You can't copy me because that's what Joe is doing. I'm going to do that. Don't. Please don't. You could listen to what I'm saying and structure it to your way, to your tank, but you cannot just copy a person, especially today with the marketing that we have. If it's phytos and different type of phytos and different, if I tell you that I've never fed my tank, would you believe it? Because I've never fed my tank. And recently when I switched to Polo Reef, you know, they have a liquid like, you know, coral food liquid. Yeah. And every now and then I throw that, and the minute I throw that, I start to see almost like a red slime on my rock skin.
That's what I'm running on here, Joe. Polo Reef. Yeah. I've done for 2 years now, 18 months. Yeah.
You know, so you got to be careful with that food too, because too much of anything is bad. You know.
Question for you there from Scotty. Joe, Tusi, don't know where you find all the energy maintaining your own tank as well as helping out at Polo Reefs? It seems you're there 24/7.
What? Say that again.
So Scott's basically saying, how do you find the balance with your time between your own tank, working with Andrew at Polo?
It's dedication. You will find if you love what you do. I love what I do at Andrew at Polo. I knew that will be challenging for me, being there, but that didn't stop me because I love Andrew as a person, never mind what he's doing to the hobby. Most people don't know Andrew, as a person like I do, and the man is a gem. A lot, the hobby. He makes all of us look, like we don't like the hobby as much because he truly loves the hobby. It's never enough. So, it's dedication. I love to be there. And then, of course, I love my tank. Someone said to me recently that very similar, question. I thought that you would lose interest in your tank, being that you work at Polo every day, seeing so many tanks and seeing so much more than anyone can have in one tank, right? But actually, it helped me like my tank more because I've learned being there. So, seeing different tanks, how they behave, different corals in different tanks. When you look at your tank, you say, okay, how can I make my tank to be a little bit of everything that are at Polo? So, it's never enough. Everyone tells me you need a bigger tank. I won't. I will not switch a bigger tank. You got to be happy with what you have.
Just change it every 2 years. Why not?
I renovate it every 2 years, so that's the exciting part about it, actually, because as much as it breaks your heart a little bit, because you bring it where you want it to look like the ocean, to look full and everything, and lush, and then you break it apart and reseed it with smaller tanks, right? With smaller corals. It's like you're landscaping at your home, right? You put down the bushes; they're small, and you can't wait for them to grow, and then you start trimming them, and then they get old, and then it's time to replace the bushes. So it's kind of the same thing. My tank every 2 years. If I tell you that I cannot clean the glass anymore because the magnets hit and the cores are touching the glass, it's time.
Don, question for you randomly over here from Lauren's6267. Hey, Don, watch some of your reef bum appearances, and you talked about how acropora feed more in the wild than we only have photosynthesis. And we only have photosynthesis, sorry. When I looked this up, it said they get 5 to 15% from feeding.
Well, it depends on which research paper you're actually watching. Yeah, seriously, this is if you ask AI, you will probably get the totally wrong answer. Also, acropora in the wild depends on what depths they're located. So the amount of photosynthesis versus feeding, the proportion is different. When the coral, how much light they're exposed to, how deep they are actually located. So, but feeding is still a major input for acropora. So in the ocean, so that's why, and also photosynthesis mostly is just like supplemental. But when you read some literature, they emphasize on the photosynthesis. There's some reason behind it. So, for example, that photosynthesis is somehow so closely linked to climate change, and well, that when you read the paper, so it's very important to figure out what type of coral they're referring to. Even you just talk about acropora, there's so many different types of acropora. Maybe the type that the researcher at that paper they collected at that area for that study, well, is primary photosynthesis. But if you're talking about feeding is only accounted for 5 to 15%, that is extremely low estimate for that. So, and many scientific papers just telling you that okay, the research is done on certain species of coral, certain species of acros, if they actually use acro as the subject for study. So, but different species of coral dramatically vary from each other in terms of the way they feed, the habitat, they respond to light, response to photosynthesis. The one thing for sure is that the coral in the wild, in the ocean, actually, they prefer the photosynthetic algae that is less efficient because that photosynthesis actually become a burden for coral in the wild. When the photosynthesis become overactive, they actually produce the oxidative species, can damage the cell. Yeah. So, yep. I hope that I can answer your question. So it's not one size fits all.
Joe, you said you don't feed the tank or you've never fed it. Ever been tempted to put any fish sauce in?
I didn't clean the sand. I missed the last part.
Have you ever thought about putting any fish sauce in?
No.
Not tempted?
Joey is not as crazy as I am.
No.
No.
Don't add anything to your tank. Just do it slowly. Feed your fish, and let nature do its thing.
Yep.
The one thing if you want to add is the right sponges to maintain your water, clean, and that's it. Just be patient. I always said it takes at least 4 years for a tank to mature. That it becomes almost like bulletproof, unless you have a mechanical failure or you do something stupid. If the tank have the right biome and it's a good ecosystem with the right balance of everything, you're gonna be fine. I mean,
sorry, Joe, that's interesting. I was going to ask you that earlier, but when you said about your tank has got a really high sponge population, and that's what helps, I just assumed you meant naturally occurring sponges that have grown over time. Have you actually artificially added sponge to your tank then?
yes. Originally, I bought sponges, and sponges are very. You got to be very careful that you don't expose them to air, right? So.
Yeah.
You put a couple of small pieces of rock with a little tiny sponge on it. You throw them in the tank. They're eventually gonna grow. And back in the day when I started out, I was doing also the zeovit system, not completely the zeovit system, but I was using their product where, they have that bottle sponge power, which I've used to use it, a lot, and I think. It did feed the sponges to grow. I mean, they're everywhere. If I try to pull a rock out, I can't because it's stuck with the sponge. So it does help your tank tremendously, and it filters your water without removing the the good stuff.
So what's your take on silicates then?
That's probably what the bottle is silicates.
Yeah.
It's probably what that sponge power bottle is. It's you're feeding silicates. So there you go. It's like we do an ICP test and we see silicates are high and we're all freaking out, right? That's how much we know. Stop. The other day we were talking, me and Andrew at Polo, and we do a lot of ICPing. And I said, listen, when companies came out and offered to those individual elements, right? It's basically like what Andrew calls it, like, well, if you want to build a very good stereo system, right? You're not going to buy speakers and an amplifier and a CD player all from Pioneer, right? You're going to buy one from Dong, you're going to buy one from Tom, and going to buy one from James, which they all specialize in the pieces, right? So that's what makes the perfect stereo. So if you are dosing individual elements because you're aiming to have 100% all trace elements, right? What do you think can happen with that? If you overshoot, now you're in trouble because you're aiming for 100%. So how about we aim for 85%? So this way we have 15% to be 100% that we can overshoot and still be safe. Because if you're at 100% and you're overshooting at 110%, you're going to kill things. Because either your iodine is going to be high, or your chromium is going to be high, or something is going to be high. So I think as much as we know and we are trying to chase these elements, I think we can also be doing a disservice, because if you, God forbid, overshoot, you could cause problems. So that's the part I like about modern reef, where everything is in those 4 parts. And I'll be honest with you, my tank had never looked better when I had, the calcium reactor. And I don't chase. I barely do an ICP test. The corals tell me. When I see the corals, like, certain colors kind of like fading a little bit, I know what element I need to add a little bit. You do water change and call it a day. Don't chase.
Question there from Terry. Evening, Tessa. That'll be good. Tusi, in all the years you have been in this hobby, what is the most important thing you have learnt and have not changed? You've kind of touched on it a little bit. So.
What have I learned and it did not change? I would say patience is definitely have to never change, because if you change your patience, you're going to fail. What I've learned is, stay with your water changes. Don't fall behind. Because when I thought that I don't need to do water changes and do one every month, you allow things to start to build up in your tank. If it's
do you think that old tank syndrome can be called lazy tank syndrome as well, though, for that reason?
Yes, that's a very good point. The minute you get lazy, the tank will punish you. Also, I don't think what I've learned is doing less is better than doing more. That's, I would say, that I've learned. Do less, not more, because when you overdo it, you hurt yourself.
Fair enough. And if it becomes a pain in the ass, you're less likely to keep doing it. So then it gets even worse.
You have to have a routine. Like my routine every day, it's when I wake up to go to work, my tank, obviously lights are off in the dark. I check my tank every single day with a flashlight. Every single day before I leave. My corals will tell me, when I look at them with a flashlight, how long are the polyp extensions at night versus one day and another. Okay. So it's amazing that at certain alkalinity level, corals extend more than other levels. That's one thing I'm sure I've learned, and I know by looking at that every morning. And
Can you share that with us?
well, I think that 7.7 is the number, in alkalinity, that I found corals are the happiest, especially with polyp extension. From 7.7 to just 8 or just under 8. The minute it goes to 8 and above, polyp extensions, in my tank, it's always less.
That's good. So you're pitching for quite close to natural seawater levels there, then.
Yeah. And be disciplined to manually test. Do not rely on your mechanical, testing for you, because if the probe or the test was a bad test and you're relying on it, which I run the Trident, and I've noticed that as the liquids in the Trident starts to get lower, the test starts going off the accuracy. So if you have a tank and the tank is balanced properly, consuming everything, you haven't changed anything. You fed your fish the same amount. You did everything exactly the same. Your levels should not change. So if your level starts to change, something is wrong. Okay? Now, it's either your Trident is wrong. That's when you need to continue to manually, test. But a tank levels don't change overnight for nothing, right? So if you are doing everything the same and you haven't changed anything, your alkalinity is not going to change. If it's going to change, it's going to change to the downside because your corals are growing. Right? So then you're going to do that little adjustment. So recently, I'll give you an example. Recently, if Acro Killer is on the chat, he will relate to this because we spoke about this. We changed the chip on the Delua lights to all blue, instead of the purples and the violets. And I was afraid to go, from where I was in terms of percentage to 100%. So I went up slowly. If I tell you, not only did the PAR changed, but also the alkalinity intake changed. And it started to basically drop very fast. I was adjusting my alkalinity like every single day. I was dosing 80 mLs of Modern Reef per day to now 110 per day.
Oh, wow.
And this was in a matter of a month. So, but I was waiting for that. And again, like, to go back to my point, is that because I did something. But if you don't do anything, you should not have any swings unless there is a mechanical failure or there's something dying in your tank, okay, and your alkalinity is not being consumed and it starts to creep up. So these are the things that we need to pay attention to, because one thing for sure, our corals, and everybody will agree with that what corals don't like is swings. Alkalinity is swinging up and down. So
that's interesting. Sean's with us in the chat, and Sean's actually got a question for you as well.
Hi, it's Sean from Successful Reef Aquariums.
Hi, Sean.
Benji working away in the background now, just doing a tank move, but been asked to do a question. So my question to you is, with today's sort of issues or problems with surrounding sort of bacteria and stuff like that, do you advocate the use of antibiotics and other treatments like that, which us in the UK, we can't really get them, so we've got no other choice. But do they actually make a difference? That's probably more of a question associated around you, you know, in the Polo Reef. But what a setup, though, eh? So yeah, that's basically my question. Going to carry on now because pretty much balls deep at the moment. And yeah, have a good one.
You too. Thanks. Well, we are at Polo. We are studying on different meds for, you know, if it's bacterial infections or pests at the same time. You know, the answer, which is that yes, you got to be careful with that. Are you going to know? It's very tough to know about bacteria because we don't have the turnaround tests. I mean, that we can send out to know if we have bad bacteria on a coral. So the best is to quarantine your corals. Um, you know, dip them. Um, Not that I do this because I do not have the room, and this is the issue. If you're buying corals, you know, from hobbyists, make sure they're reputable hobbyists, that they are like keeping their tanks and their coral, you know, clean and they have success. But if you're gonna buy wild corals, you will be a fool if you don't have a separate system that you're monitoring the corals and also dipping the corals if it's every 3-4 days, if it's dipping them in iodine, if you're doing an interceptor treatment, if you're you know, again, you might not, you know, bacteria is different than pests, you know, so it's very, very tough to know and how to protect against bacteria that could come on a coral. Very tough. We're still studying bacteria. I mean, if we had labs to test for bacteria and the turnaround is like an ICP test, that would be great. But unfortunately, we're still far from that. You know, I understand that there's a group of people that are trying to start something to learn about bacteria and biome on the actual coral, which that's, you know, that can happen. And it could be far, far, you know, many years from now for us to know anything. But the best is to quarantine and watch, you know.
We've got another question that was very similar linked to that one. It was from Mr. Paul Hughes at AAC.
Hi, Tusi Corals. Just thought I'd say what an amazing aquarium you've got. I've been following you on Instagram for quite a while. When Maria and the Yorkshire Reef told me so much about your system, it looks amazing. My question is to you is the same sort of question I put to Putang Reefs the other day, is because I think it's really good for people watching this, is how have you coped with coral pests and diseases? Whilst I realise that obviously buying aquaculture corals is a good idea, but ultimately many of us in the end end up buying corals from everywhere. What's your coral process? Do you quarantine your corals, or do you just work on dips and luck like many of us out there? Yeah. What would you say has also been your worst situation regarding coral pests, viruses, or diseases? Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Maria is the best. She is the one that got me onto Model Reef, actually, and I think she has the nicest SPS tank in the world. Okay, well, think about it this way, right? If we are getting corals from the ocean and they're coming with pests, obviously, right? What is it that it's in the ocean that is allowing these corals to continue to grow, and it's like nothing happened, right? It's nature. So what is the balance of that? If it's for an example, now I understand, we have a glass box and we are putting a lot of flow in it. So, for an example, you take red bugs, right? You don't need to do interceptor if you have pipefish and dragon pipefish and the right fish that basically eat red bugs. But due to the overflowing that flow that we pushing because we think SPSs needs that much flow and they grow more and so on and so forth. How is a dragon pipefish going to get on a coral? It's going to get blown away. So to me, that's the reason why I keep saying, trying to find nature that do everything. Now, flatworms, acropora eating flatworms. Which I've had them in the past, I've dealt with them, and how I dealt with them is basically doing nothing. Putting in the right fish, if it's wrasses, if it's going in there with a power head and blowing them off, okay? And if the coral is healthy, okay, the flatworm is not going to kill it. The coral can outgrow the flatworm, okay? So it's all about the health of the coral. If you have a good ecosystem with healthy corals all around, if it's the right lighting, right chemicals, elements, right everything, a coral can outcome anything. Now, yes, if you see a coral that's, not happy, something is going on, right? And that's how you basically, maintain it. Now, cleaning crews, go back to cleaning crews. So if you have enough blue-legged hermits in your tank, the only disadvantage, if you have them, then you got to catch every one of them to do an interceptor. When you have red bugs, if you didn't quarantine, because they're going to die, right? If you have cleaning shrimps, if you have different other shrimps towards other pests, type of nuisance, if it's Aptasia or Mijanos, right? It's the balance. So to me, when I had flatworms, this was like when I got into SPSs maybe 16, 17 years ago. Okay. And I called a friend of mine and said, I'm seeing eggs. You go, well, you got flatworms like most SPS guys have, and they don't even know it, and you got to pull them out, scrape the eggs, and dip them every 3 days, and you get rid of them. And that's what I did at the time. But then, researching and looking into it, right? If you don't have, because the fish is the issue, right? If you don't have fish, if you're able to catch your fish, God forbid you have flatworms, right? If you're able to catch your fish and pull them out, you could basically do water changes with potassium chloride, and you're dipping your whole tank. Yeah. You empty your water into a container, fill it up with water with potassium chloride, empty it again, and put back the same water that you emptied. So this way, you're putting back your same water in your tank, and you get rid of them.
Just dipping the whole tank in one go, then.
So basically, it's your fish is the problem. The thing is that to answer the question is the best is to quarantine, because something is gonna go into your tank if you don't. If you bring in like wild corals, and things like that. And when you buy corals, you gotta buy from a reliable source that they're quarantining, and they're aquaculturing these corals for many years. Now, with today's way of this hobby, it got so big, and the shows that we have, and all of that's the internet, and every Joe Schmo is selling, including myself, corals, right? Um, Pests are running from my house to your house to Don's house, and on and on and on, and that's they're multiplying. But you know, I don't think it's it's a big deal. Now, the worst pest I've ever had is when I had my um, bobbit worm. That was the worst
Oh, right,
pest.
okay.
That
Yes.
that was, I thought that was the end of my tank, because I had to basically dismantle the whole tank to get him out.
How big was it in
Because
the end?
3 feet,
Oh, proper one.
yeah, and he costed me the most money because he was eating. He had a very good taste. He went after all my expensive fish. You know, so how. What I'm saying though is, like, how do you quarantine against that?
Yeah.
If it came in a rock, if it came as a baby in a rock, you know,
So I've had that. I've had a similar experience. Sorry, Joe. I've had a similar experience to that with come across a bobbit worm in the past. So when I set this tank up behind me, it's only 3 months old. I've used all dead live rock in the actual tank, and the only live rock in the system I put in the sump. So I should hopefully get all of that goodness, but any pests will stay down there.
and so
So exactly what you said about would you do a tank the same again next time round? That's the change I made.
yep. And I'm sure that we all have. I mean, if I had to do it over again, what I would do is probably make the tank more open, because I think I have way too much rock in my tank. But then you take that back, right? Maybe that's why my tank have been doing good through all these years, because I have a lot of rock.
Yeah.
So what is rock? Rock is more surface.
Yeah.
More surface is more bacteria, right? In today, no sand bed, no this, no that, open scape, all like sticks. Where is your surface? And you're limiting your surface for bacteria, for a biome. So then the corals come in and they take over, and they crust over the rock, and on and on and on. You have no surface,
Yeah.
True. Yeah, true.
So it's maybe what is a success. And again, these are things that it will take years for us to know 100% exactly, what works, what doesn't work. One thing, they all work. It's just that one works better than the other. And you need rock. And if it's live rock, if it's fake rock, but you need rock, and you need surface. And I think the more surface you have, the better it is for your tank. But yeah, I'm contradicting myself. What I would do different is less rock, right? But the reason is because I can put more corals.
Yeah. True.
You know.
Let's find another question to you. Who've we got sent us another question? Corey sent you a question all the way from Germany. White
Reefers at work,
Corals.
hey Tusi. I got one question for you. Which piece of knowledge fundamentally changed the way you keep SPS? I've been doing it quite some time. You've been doing it quite some time. I would love to hear which information that was for you.
What if I understand, because it's very low? What did you say? What I would do? What is one thing?
What bit of information or a sort of knowledge you've picked up when it comes to SPSs in particular, in terms of keeping them?
I mean, honestly, I think it's stability. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think that there is anything that anyone is doing more than anyone to grow better SPSs. If you have stability, if you have the right elements. So
Yeah.
I would say choose a good salt, which I believe, that guy there is using Nios in my, because I follow him.
I should think so.
and so am I. That's what I use. It's a very good salt. And let nature do its thing and give it time. Be patient. Three things: the right light, stability, and good water change, which means good salt.
He didn't say flow, Don. He didn't say flow.
Well, I don't believe that a lot of flow is. I don't believe that a lot of flow is the key to growing better SPSs. Flow is important. Water movement is important. But if you are doing flow, so think about it this way: are you changing the settings on your flow every week? No, it's the same pattern.
No.
Ramping up, ramping down, ramping up, ramping down, ramping up, ramping down. Coral is going to get annoyed at some point, right? The ocean is not rough all the time. Currents change also based on that. So, yeah, we don't have a tide like the oceans have. So, the one thing that I liked about the closed loop is that I have the undertow flow. So you're getting flow from underneath while you're getting flow across the top to agitate the surface. But blowing, very hard flow onto a coral, tell me if you are closer to that flow, how you're going to like that. That coral is not going to like it because it's getting too much, right? So put a lot of more power heads, tone him down. It's almost, think about it like sound, right? Music, sound. If you have two speakers and you want to, fill up all the noise in one big room, you're going to have to crank up the volume, which the people closer to that speaker is not going to like it. But if you have a lot of speakers all the way around, the volume will be lower, but the sound will sound just as high. So it's the same thing. Power heads, put many power heads as you can, and keep the flow lower, that you're creating the right amount of flow that you need for the tank. I'm not a big believer of flow, to be honest with you.
Joe, you've mentioned speakers quite a lot this evening. What is Andrew's stereo system like?
Oh my God, it's off the charts. It's I think one or two like it in the world, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's built for him. So you talk about sound, it's like it's a sound like you've never heard. It's incredible.
We've actually got Dan in the chat. Crosti's Reef is the engineer that built the front end of that system.
Oh yeah,
it's all made in Cambridge in the UK where he works. So that's his claim to fame. He's made Andrew Sadler's hi-fi.
Oh, it's. Was he there? Was he there recently?
No, I don't think he's been over there. No.
Because someone was doing something recently on the system, but it's there's a spot in this room where you sit and you listen to the music, and it's just, you think you think that they're playing that right in front of you. That's how clear the clarity is. It's incredible. The acoustics, everything.
Talking about clarity, then back to fish for a minute. Thoughts on ozone, running carbon in a system, water clarity? What's your
I don't run carbon.
No, okay.
Don't run carbon. Carbon does a lot of, especially, catalytic carbon, as much as now is becoming the thing.
Yeah.
Guys, don't do it.
Stripping.
Because you're going to have problems. It removes things that should not be removed. So I don't run carbon. I haven't run carbon in over 10 years, and if you're going to run carbon or because something happened, okay, it's one thing. But if you had, to run, copper ore, for an example, if you had high metals to remove high metals, okay, it's one thing. But other than that, don't do it because you're removing things that should not be removed. It's for clarity. If I feel that the water, to remove, I'll use the coral snow.
Okay, flocculent. Yeah, fair enough.
But
Jamie, you running carbon on that?
Me? No.
Running carbon?
No. Don't run any carbon. No.
Carbon?
Occasionally.
Don't do it. I've had more, and we're cutting back on that even at Andrew. And it's like if you're doing ICPs, right, and you look at your SAC number, that tells you something about your water, right? If your SAC number is very, very high, ask yourself a question: what are you doing? What are you throwing in your tank? Are you doing, your water changes? Are you overfeeding? What are you doing? Right? So whatever you read, think about it this way. Whatever we get to read, if it's an ICP test, if it's you're reading the leftover.
Yeah. The residual,
right?
Yeah.
You're reading the leftover. So
Yep,
if your
absolutely.
leftover is high, because you're overdoing.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is cut back from your overdoing. So your overdoing is going to continue for you to overdo by adding carbon, by adding GFO, by adding whatever. You see how it translates to overdo, and that's finding the right balance for what you have. If you have 10 fish, just feed 10 fish. Don't feed 30 fish. You only have 10 fish, and look at the ICP, look at your SAC. If your SAC is, very high, then okay, you're overdoing something, then lower that. But you don't need, what I'm saying is, like, think about it this way. So if you have a nitrate reactor, right? And the nitrate reactor is removing all your nitrates, and then you're dosing nitrates.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yep.
you're overdoing, and then you're doing more to maintain. And that's why we complicate this hobby. This hobby is the easiest thing. We are the ones who complicate it.
Yeah. I don't run carbon as part of my regime, but I do have a bucket of carbon and a poly filter just in case I have to strip something out or take a med out or something. I'd only ever use it for that, and I'll run it for 2 or 3 days just to take something out, but it's not part of my usual routine.
You don't even need it. Even if you were to put, for an example, interceptor, after 24 hours, that med is basically gone by itself. It's no longer as effective. It just dissipates by itself. If you have good skimming,
True.
And if you wet skim more than dry skim, I like wet skimming. It helps with my nutrients to maintain where they are. and you're removing, you know, you're removing it more consistently. Um, it's how I reef.
Hmm.
A good skimmer is important. But again, like at the beginning, until everything, find the balance, you might not need to skim the same way. You might need to put the skimmer on and off on a timer. I mean, I've spoke to, some, reefers reach out to me of like, I got dinos. What do? I got this, I got that. I mean, recently someone sent me a video and it is basically a bloom of bacteria. And he goes, What is this? And I said, well, it seems to me like a bloom of bacteria. What are you dosing? He goes, well, I'm dosing vinegar every day. Well, hello, you
There
need
you
to
go.
maybe start with cutting back on your dosing because you're overfeeding. Um, Dinos. I mean, what's your nutrients? Zero. What do you think is going to happen? So um, it's because, like I'm saying, it's like everybody is so afraid of nutrients that either we overskim, either we overdose, carbon dose, and so on and so forth, where we're not even allowing anything to the biome to even grow. We're killing it at the beginning. So
A few
gotta give
comments
it
on
time.
some. Mickey Bobby said last week everybody ran and changed their float because of Dom, because that's all he talked about. This week everybody will be running back and taking the carbon out because of Tusi.
So, Doug, last week you told them that you need a lot of flow.
Standing wave. Yes.
Yeah, standing up.
Not the
well,
direct flow that
like
hitting the coral, but the standing wave. The
Okay,
up
well,
and down. Yeah.
so let's go back to flow.
Okay.
Because I don't want this person to feel that what you said and what I said, they're going. First of all, we're both right. Okay, you need flow, and the question is the right amount of flow. Does anyone know what is the right amount of flow? No.
No, nobody knows.
No one knows. But I call it water movement. So,
Yeah.
and if you have a gyree that's basically pushing water more towards the surface to agitate the surface for oxygen instead of directly through the corals, right? It's flow. But
Yeah. So just look
so
at
to
this.
me is, you need flow. It's just that try to balance that flow because my tank is very difficult. It's a peninsula. So how do I get flow unless I don't, I have 2 power heads on one end and 4 power heads on the other end, but my overflow box is where the 4 power heads are. So I got more water being pushed away from my overflow box, that, but then, what helps me is the closed loop, which is all from underneath. So it's creating a circle. So what I told a friend of mine recently was do the coral snow, and when you throw it in your tank, see how it behaves, how it circulates. Does it go in circle from to the bottom? It comes back up. Does it go, to one side and then it shows you. And I think it is important to know how your flow is going because some corals, if they are directly where the power head is, it's not going to like it. So, do you want to run your flow against the glass? And create a circular movement, around your tank. Not really. So that's flow, right? So what is the corals getting with that? To me, you know, you need the right flow. But
look at your corals though, Joe, don't you? Like you said.
What?
You look at your corals, don't you? You look at your tank. Look at your corals. See what they're saying to you as well.
I can't hear you.
I said you look at your corals as well, don't you? You look at what they're saying to you. Look at how they're reacting to the different flow. Depending on and
exactly.
The flow's going to change as your corals grow. Obviously, you're going to have to adjust the flow. I've had that problem in here.
Yeah.
Reef keepers saying rumor has it that Don's got shares in Jebao because they sold out of pumps.
No.
Don sold.
So that actually is a new J-bow sitting there and pointing at the surface and have all the ripples. I don't know why there's a glare there. That's exactly hiding here is a J-bow.
So yeah.
Okay. Right, time for another question for you. Let's have a look here. Who we going here? Oh, regular face. Here we go.
Hey, brother. Got a two-part question for you today. First being, as long as you've been in the hobby, what has been the most influential thing you've seen so far up until today? And the second being, what do you think is going to be the most influential thing going forward in the future for our hobby?
The polyp extension, for an example, the polyp extension is one thing that I think that we are chasing nowadays. What is the future? It's very hard to tell. I think we're still learning. We are going to learn the future of what bad things we've done, you know, in 2025 versus 2030. You know, like we're talking 2025 versus 20 years ago, how much we didn't know, right? I think the microbiome, the bacteria population, the bacteria on corals themselves, I think is things that we're going to be learning more about. We all know what trace elements are needed. We all know what flow is needed. But, you know, what amazes me is that I see hobbyists with like tenuous polyp extension, like there's no other, right? So I think it's how they keep their systems pest free. It makes that difference. You know, very hard to tell what influenced me the most. Every tank is a piece of art. Every tank to me, it's as good as mine. Okay, I've never looked at anyone's tank and I was like, my tank is better. I don't look at things like that. You know, some tanks are younger. You know, they're not as mature. But every tank is a piece of art, and everybody is succeeding, in a sense, doing it their way. So I don't consider myself like I'm doing different things than anybody else. I think that I am doing less, and I think maybe my success is because of that. That I think a lot of reefers, young reefers, are doing too much because they want to make time go faster. Guess what? It's not going to go fast.
Your tank is incredible because it's sat there for such a length of time, and that's what
you know. It's old, and the truth is this: how many 20-year-old tanks are there before someone changed them because they're afraid they're going to leak? Now, maybe mine will leak tonight, but you know, so in theory, you know, but in theory is that what I'm trying to say is that in theory, though, is that there's not too many guys that will give the tank the time to be 20 years old and see how it behaves, right? So there is success of the old tank syndrome.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, yes, yes.
There's a bit of a debate going off in the comments. Joe, you've already touched on it. I think I know your answer, but if I was to say water change, no water change, which way are you going?
I do water changes. I do water change a week. I do a small water change a week, which if you take, let's say you did 25% water change in a month. So divide it into 4 and do those water changes. You know, I do it like religiously on Sunday. And one thing I would say, it's better to do a water change with the lights off, you know, when everybody is sleeping.
Hmm.
So, you know, especially, you know, if you're using a salt with high manganese and light, it don't go well. So, you know,
Okay.
I've always done water changes in the dark, you know, before the lights came on. And, you know, when the tank is calm, everybody is in its place, and that's it. So, if one recommendation to give, that's will be one of them.
That's new to me. I must admit.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. Okay.
And what's the reason for that then? Sorry, Tom. What's the reason for the high manganese and light then? Does it drop out of solution, or does it precipitate or something? If it's hit with light?
It precipitates, you know, and till it's a shock, right? So, like, let's say your manganese level in the tank is supposed to be at a number, but your salt is 4 times that number, which certain salts have very, very high manganese. And now you did a water change, you just basically send that element to the roof. So, you know, with the lights, for some reason, it reacts differently if it's precipitation.
Okay.
So I find it better in the dark.
Interesting.
Thoughts on that?
Also, also what's important is, so you mix your salt, and if you have a tower, you know, that it's like I have a 60-gallon tower where basically I have 60 gallons of salt available at all times. It's constantly circulating, right? So there is precipitation that happens there. Okay. So there are things that if I am doing an ICP, I'm doing an ICP on my water mix, not on my tank per se. So I fluff and I add elements to my water mix. So when I do a water change, I'm definitely replenishing everything, you know, the right way. When you mix your salt, do yourself a favor. Don't mix your salt and an hour after you go and do a water change. You know, mix your salt, allow your water to mix for a good, you know, at least 4 or 5 hours. You know, aerate it. You know, let it do its thing. You know, if it's just, you know, some people, I have to do water change. I'll mix the water, and I don't see that could be as good if you did it right away.
Fair enough. So with you being at Andrews then at Polo Reef, you must have an amazing opportunity to, well, we've seen on the videos, to play around with some gadgets, gizmos, technology. Have you been able to sort of play out some of your, I suppose, ideas or opinions that have proven to be
Yes, I mean,
accurate or not accurate? What's your biggest sort of thing that you've gone, I want to try and see if this works, and have I been right for saying this for so many years? Have you been proven right or wrong in your own methodology?
That's what makes us a very good team there. You know, that we push each other to the limit, where certain topics, certain ideas, certain you know, like Andrew being in the hobby longer than I was. Jonathan, runs the store, and he had been in the hobby longer than me. You know, so when I say something, sometimes it's challenged, but there are things that finally have been proven that if they were wrong and I was right, and vice versa, right? So that's what makes a good team, is that we all push each other with our ideas to make it better. Like for an example, this manganese and precipitation, and it's Andrew. It's all Andrew. Where he read about it and things like that, and we've tested it, and I've said I don't think we should be doing water changes with the lights on. I mean, imagine you're doing a water change and you have your halides on, and your corals are out the water.
Yeah,
I mean, you got two 400-watt light bulbs burning on top of that coral, sliming, and then the coral slime. And what do you think happens with that slime when your water is filled back up? If that slime is now circulating till it goes through the overflow and through the skimming, you know what I mean? It don't pay to do it that way. So there are many things, like I'm very against, as you could see in this podcast, against GFO. So I've been fighting GFO at Polo since I arrived, and finally we are using a lot less, if it's, yes, there is a lot of that going on, but that to me, it's all positive, because this is how, you bring all the brains together, and by doing things differently, you realize. So for example, taking water from other tanks. If let's say you're low nutrient in the quarantine tanks, now you're taking water from other tanks into these tanks because of low nutrient. I don't agree with it. You're transferring whatever is in that tank now to you're kind of almost contaminating a tank. If it's algae, algae doesn't basically move from one tank to another with holding a leaf in your hand. Okay, algae is transferred in the water. You don't even see it in the bloom. And then it grows in the other tank. You don't realize it. Where did this come from? Well, remember when you did a water change and you took the water from that tank? So, yeah, we changed a lot of things. And we're still learning, and we're still trying to improve. There's always room for improvement. It's never, it's never over.
You've been doing the moonshiners, haven't you, at Polo? I've seen the cupboard with all the bottles and all the this, that, and the other.
Yeah. We do the moonshine. It's just, but we don't do as much as you think, because we do fluff the tower. So,
all right.
If you fluff your water mix to make it perfect, if your tank is perfect, then you're doing a water change, you're maintaining it. But if you're going to moonshine your tank and then you do a water change and your water change is not as perfect, you're basically now removing, as you're adding, you're removing, okay, and you're screwing your elements in your tank. So now you're back to square one. Another ICP, now you're going to dose a little bit more of this and a little more of that. So the right way of doing it, moonshine your tank to be perfect and moonshine your water mix to be perfect. And this way you could stay perfect.
Okay. Anything in particular that stands out to you with the moonshine in terms of trace elements? Anything that you've sort of think really does make a difference? Because there's somebody in the comments, again, it's Dong's biggest fan, Gaza's Reef. Every time we have a guest on, he's normally straight in there. What are your top 5 trace elements in order of importance? Sorry, Gaz. Happy Friday, mate. Can you,
Oh.
he's gone. He's gone. We can guess for him. We can guess for him what they might be.
It looks like some sort of Don out of a gangster movie in that pose, doesn't it?
So while Tusi's not with us, Dog, are you agreeing with everything so far? You're the chemist.
Yeah.
Yeah. To which bit? You're the chemist, or are you agreeing?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because it's a hobby. It's a hobby
Exactly.
that there's so many aspects. There's so many ways to not skin the cat because I have so many cats here.
Don't say that in your house. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, not about you guys. Okay. All right, you're fine.
It's interesting though when you get a guest on though, and everybody's got so many different opinions on the right.
Yeah.
And I think that's healthy. You know, it is a bit
exactly. That's what it's for.
Friday night. That's what exactly. But yeah, a lot of people are saying a little bit of carbon, not so much carbon, or no carbon. Oh, he's back. Joe's back. You back with us?
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, it was perfect time, and we got to talk about you for a couple of minutes. It was great. Thank you. While you weren't there. No, I was just going to go on and ask you, was there anything... Oh, are you still with us?
Oh dear.
Oh,
I think it goes to show that because Joe's tank's been running for so long, it is really a case of if it works for you, don't change it, even if it's different to anyone else.
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear us all right, Joe?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear us okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
Okay, good.
I'll ask you one last time. Trace elements. Was there anything in particular that you've played around with in Polo's Reef in terms of moonshining? Choose my words carefully here. That you've noticed a significant difference? Anything in particular jumps out to you?
Don't know that one element stands out for me more than others.
There's a lot of rubbish out there that manganese is great for gonnies and gonnies only, and fluoride brings out the pink colours and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think you can pin it down that accurately.
I agree with you, Jamie. I don't think that I mean, manganese go with iron, right? What I agree with the right levels of trace elements is that I believe that trace elements, they all have a relation to other trace elements, right? So like this is where it gets a little complicated. If let's say, like you read about these forums and someone will be talking about potassium, for an example, that he's maintaining potassium at 500 for argument's sake, right? But what he doesn't talk about is what is his iodine, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. So for me, if you're going to chase trace elements, you need to keep everything in relation to each other. Like if you Fauna Marine, for an example, have a chart that explains it all, right? One thing I love it being a Polo is that we've had Claude there, we've had Christoph there, we had Akil from Modern Reef there, and they all have a philosophy about these trace elements. And what I think found common in all of them was the relationship of trace elements. So, like for an example, like you could buy a bottle that says potassium iodide, right? Which is mixed together. You buy manganese and iron mixed together, right? So they all have a relation in a sense. So what happens to fluoride and boron and selenium and chromium and all these other traces? These are metal, most of them, right? They're minute in seawater, right? But my big question is, which is something that we haven't done yet, and I've been, pushing this. I wanted to do it at Polo when we set up the 2500, okay, where I wanted to moonshine that tank with no fish and no coral, and bring it up to speed 100%, and do at least 4 ICPs before we add 1 coral and 1 fish.
Yeah.
And the reason being is what is being precipitating in our tank to what is being consumed. We don't know.
Yeah.
Does anyone know?
Very good
No.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
No one knows, right? So we could be chasing manganese for nothing. If it's precipitating that fast, right? How could it be good for anything?
Yeah.
So I'm dosing 1,000 mLs of manganese every day because it's precipitating so fast. What is the... So I'm not saying that that's what it is, right? I'm using that as an example. That's what I really wanted to do is that, and then you'll know at least what's precipitating really so fast, what's not. But that's one thing that it bothers me. It's like, for an example, chromium, right? Most of our tanks have chromium within the frag plugs, within, what do you guys think frag plugs are? Most of them is cement, right? You buy all these big tiles, it's made out of cement. They all have chromium in them. So, then you take all these traces, honestly, is my tank better than someone that is doing moonshining? I mean, I do the Polo Reef, and like I said, the only thing I dose every now and then is a little bit of zinc nickel, which had always been the culprits on every ICP test. That zinc nickel, manganese, and iron are low. Those are always the 4. Other than those 4, my ICP will be 100%. So what does that tell you? That are they important? Now, if you take the Polo Reef salt, for an example, they don't even have zinc and nickel in it.
Yeah. Okay.
And why is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we're chasing too many things because of someone marketing something that's telling you that it's in seawater. Okay?
Yes.
So, it doesn't mean because it's in seawater, it's always everything is good anyway. We are
absolutely.
we are not running a sea. We're running a box with water in it. So
that's exactly what I've had the thought in the past about. Obviously, some of these trace elements, we're not 100% sure what they do in biological processes or what they're needed for, but we're chasing them to match seawater. So let's say, for example, I don't know, rubidium is the one I always go to. Say it's actually a toxin, and corals don't like it, and we're artificially dosing it. We don't know all of what these roles they play.
But again, rubidium could be good for mushrooms if you have mushrooms.
Yeah,
it might not be good for SPSs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and how much?
It's like what I've said in the past, right? It's like you bought a bottle from Zeovit, and it was 1 instructions for all. So you dose 5 ml of this to
tank volume,
to an empty tank that I just started, to a full tank that is full mature. So how do you come and tell? You know why? It's 1 instruction for all? Because most of it is vinegar.
Yeah. No, I think the precipitation thing you said, that experiment would be really, really interesting.
Yeah,
because
that's the experiment that I...
If we are dosing, say, on that manganese issue, if we're dosing manganese and it's just, for example, and that's precipitating out rather than being consumed, then over the course of a year, 2-3 years, enough of that could precipitate and be hiding out in your substrate or whatever, that that you'll reach a critical point where it starts to leach back in, and then you get a spike of it, perhaps.
And it does, because at Polo we tested the sand. Okay, we tested water from the sand, and you will be amazed what high levels of metals there are. Right.
Right.
So imagine my sandbed of 20 years old, what's in it, right? So if, again, you have flow. So the flow is, hitting surfaces at a daily basis, right? And that's why, changing flows is not always beneficial to a tank, because the minute you change the flows and it's, let's say, starts hitting different areas of a sandbed, guess what? What's being released in your water? All those trapped elements, right?
Yeah.
So, these are the things that, and then you wonder why you change something, and then the tank looks like crap. You got to go back and you got to ask yourself, what happened? What did I do? What changed? And it could be just as simple of something like that, but I don't think that every element that we are putting in is as important as they make it to be.
Yes.
Don't please say the phrase reefing.
Well, yeah. Look at the fish.
Getting onto that actually, Jamie.
The ingredient, the trace element in it. There's tons of them.
Yeah.
So, we have to consider that too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Use a good salt. Be in a good regiment of, like I'm saying, discipline on water changes. And that's it. Remember one thing, and I'm not going to mention names, but
oh, please do. It's Friday night. You can.
Like when the moonshiners, I'm going to use it. When the moonshine guy came out with this whole marketing of all these green bottles, what was the biggest selling point of it? Does anyone remember? Because the biggest selling point was that you don't need to do a water change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. True.
Mm-hmm.
No water change.
Okay. And guess what? We then went back to water changes. So now, why did we state that after we sold so many bottles to so many reefers, right? Thinking that they're going to save money on salt and doing water changes, to now having to do water changes. Was it because they bought the bottles? And then you're doing water changes, and if you're not fluffing your water change to be perfect as you made your tank, now you're screwing up your tank again.
Yeah, definitely.
And you get caught in a whole big round and round and round and round. So stop chasing. Do your water changes. Use a good salt. Don't cheap out on a salt, and do an ICP every 4 months, 6 months, and adjust a little bit. I mean, the modern reef have all the traces in it. It consumed proportionally, perfectly.
It's expensive.
It's not expensive.
It is. It is to a Yorkshireman. It's expensive.
Comparing it to American products that we have here, it's so concentrated, and you compare to the products we have that's very diluted, you will be using twice as much with somebody else to Monterey Reef, and it becomes more expensive on the long run.
Yeah, I've been running 18 months and I do love it. But I mean, what do you dose at the minute? 110 mil, you said?
I'm right now, I'm at 110 mLs per day.
Right, well, I'm 260.
So basically a whole system of the of the concentrated one, it lasts me a month and a week, give and take.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's more expensive than calcium reactor. Calcium reactor is the cheapest way to go, but then you're dosing trace elements not in proportion. I used to do the tropic marine A and K, and again, so now I have 2 bottles that I'm doing, based on the instruction, start with 6 ml per day, right? 6 ml of all the traces in each bottle per day. How does this instruction know what my tank needs?
Yeah,
You
true.
know, I mean, I do use a little bit of kalkwasser also.
Yeah,
Okay.
Me too.
Just that will help in terms of, using less. But remember one thing: when you're using kalkwasser, you're using less trace elements, right? Because your alkalinity, it's maintaining, and that means you need to use less, which means the forepart, now you have less trace elements going into your water. So you see how one thing, plays with the other.
Yep.
So to me, I look at it like this: we all have Ferraris. We have to afford the gas, and the gas is expensive.
Yeah, I get that, and that's why I've not changed it, because it's the first sort of dosing that I've put on this tank. And is it working? Yes, it's working. All I'm saying is, and I am moaning at the price of gas for my Ferrari right now. It's expensive.
Are you using
anyway.
You're using
the black one, the RKS? The black
you're
one.
using the blue bottle?
No, black one.
The black bottle. How much are you using a day?
260 at the minute. It's just gone up to a mil.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
how much money are we talking about here?
What?
So
how much
over here it's just been reduced. Actually, it's just gone down to £125, which I don't know what that is in bucks. You'll have to do the equation. Dollars. Don't know what it is.
200 and something, isn't it? $200.
I mean, let me see. I got
a month.
A month for how big a volume total?
So I'm with displacement, I'd be safe to say I'm about 1,200 liters UK liters.
Well, they're basically 30 euros a bottle. So that's 120 euros for one set.
Yeah.
So in England, how much are you using? How much in British pounds?
It's £125 at the minute, which sounds about right to the euros. £125, and I'm using one set every month.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
But I guarantee you, I mean, like, what will be the substitute if you were doing substitute to it? Is it
going to be putting diesel in my Ferrari?
Yeah, and then you're gonna blow the motor. What will you substitute it with that is gonna be cheaper? I don't think that you can.
Well, I have been toying around with mixing my own, but not on this system. On the system in the garage.
What are you using? Also the Polo Reef salt?
No. Do I look like a Sultan of Brunei?
It's hard to source that in the UK as well at the minute.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
All right, so to the back to the guy with the white corals, with the Nios, right? So they're coming with a system which is they're calling it ionic B, right?
Yeah.
And you're buying that system, and then you're buying the 3 bottles, and you're adding the 2 in one and the 1 in the other based on 10 mLs plus maybe 5, blah, blah, blah. How is that going to translate to the cost of, let's say, Polo Reef? And how is that equal proportion system, which they're basically, which I don't understand, because we kind of like have something similar here, where why can't you come out with 2 bottles that I don't need to add the bottles?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Is it marketing
yeah.
now? You know, I mean, why do I have to buy a system that consists? The same thing with Red Sea tried to do here with a 4-part. You know, where they're trying to copy, let's say, a system by generating so many things, where just give me the perfect salt, give me the perfect liquids that I don't have to do the thinking. And what I like about Modern Reef is that there is no thinking. You know, you set your alkalinity and you're done. You know, you dose 4 parts equally and you're done. You know, I don't have to.
I do my Modern Reef on the calcium level though.
The calcium, you know, does play a little bit with that system, but so does in many other systems, by the way.
Yeah.
But I really like it, though. I really like it.
I like it. I like it. I'm not saying I don't like my Ferrari. I'm just saying it costs a lot to run. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And Joe, we talked quite a lot tonight. Thank you ever so much again. Conscious of time. Anything in the hobby that you think's overrated in all the years you've been doing it? Any fads that you fell foul of buying yourself and turned around and went, you know what, that was the biggest load of crap I've ever spent my money on? Or anything that stands out to you in all your years?
I think a lot of LEDs are overrated.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of LED companies are overrated. Okay. It's, and you know, and I think it's a big marketing technique where people thought that, yes, it does have advantages. I'm not going to say it doesn't. That they're going to save money on electricity. But remember one thing, folks, a watt is a watt, right? So if you have 400 watts on a halide and you need 400 watts of LEDs, a watt is a watt. It's the same electricity. Yes, does it give you different things that a halide doesn't? It does in terms of color, but is it giving you UV? So, yes, to me, that is definitely, in my opinion, overrated. And I think that there's going to be a time that some of us will go back to the old school way if those companies will continue to produce, because that's the other thing. If the company doesn't have the right amount of sales on a light bulb, they're not going to continue making it. The other thing that I think a lot of overrating things is that, which is an overrated thing and not an overrated thing. And I think it's a waste of money, where the accuracy of the testing that companies are coming out with, where it's testing your alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, and they're not accurate, okay? Or that you constantly have to recalibrate it. So I always said this, we've been in America the first to be on the moon, but we cannot make a product that is accurate and consistent. If I tell you, like you mentioned, the calcium, right? I guarantee you that if you calibrate whatever it's testing, you'll see that the calcium come down. But meanwhile, it freaks me out when I start seeing my calcium going into 450, 460. And that's when I look at how much liquids do I still have? Is it halfway or is it at the end? Because if it's at the end, it's not real. And then I calibrate it and I find out it's not real, because the machine, for some reason, doesn't work the same way. I don't know why. So there's a lot of things that, you know, what I would love, like I said, to be more accurate is our testing, because our animals, you know, are living based on us testing to give them what they need. And if our
Yep.
testing is off, everything is going to be off, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Definitely agree about halides though. If electricity was cheaper in the UK, I'd have 1,200 watts of halides above this.
I mean, listen, it's where I live, it's very expensive too. Okay, because then I'm running a chiller, you know, 24/7. You know, and it does throw a lot of heat, and then on top of that, I have a fan. So you know, halides do cost more money to run. Absolutely, you know, there's no ways, you know, regardless if you're using the same amount of wattage. But like my question to LEDs, right? So when we have halides and T5s, we were told that you need to replace the bulbs every year.
I
Do we
don't.
need to? Do we? Do
No,
we?
don't just.
No, because you really don't. Okay, that was a marketing thing.
Yep.
Do we need to replace our LEDs? Because if you check the
Yes.
PAR under the LEDs, you'll see that the diodes are getting weaker. Okay,
Yes.
and you will be adjusting. So if you're running LEDs at 100%,
They burn
you're
out.
gonna be replacing a very expensive fixture every now and then, because your PAR is gonna start going down.
Definitely.
Right? So everything have its own thing. It's just how deep you want to dive into it to find out what really is going on. There's one thing for sure about this hobby is that it grew in, you know, knowledge, but it also grew in a lot of marketing, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
Joe, does Andrew let you take any frags home with you after work?
Why? I'm sorry?
Does Andrew let you take any frags home with you after work at all?
No, every now and then when he gets deliveries, you know, and he likes
Just
big
slap a
colonies,
bit off.
you know, but big colonies that they're broken, you know, he give them to me. He says, "Here, go grow them in colony and bring them back."
Brilliant.
Listen, I give Andrew a lot of the big stuff I grow. I always ends up over there. So because what am I going to do with it? It's too big. I mean, especially when I redo the tank, you know, I'll be taking all my corals there. So
well, thank you ever so much for coming on and giving us 2 hours of your Friday afternoon. Really
no, I
appreciate
mean,
it.
I'm in no rush, so I enjoy this stuff.
Good.
Superb.
Dom, you've got somewhere else to be tonight, haven't you? Where is it you're going? You got a dinner to do? Got a party?
Oh yeah,
Something else happening?
but we
You
have
got a
time,
party?
so yeah,
We're all right for a
no
bit.
hurry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
No hurry.
If anybody in the comments has got any questions you want to ask, then please throw it in by all means. But yeah, you've said about what you think was the overrated sort of thing there, Joe. Anything that you think's maybe the best bit? Reefing equipment, maybe your favourite thing you've ever owned? Bit of reefing kit.
I tell you, the GHL dozers, I think, was the best investment that I've ever done. I mean, I bought my GHL about 18 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm still running it. So
you still get spares for that.
You know, it is, I think, the best investment of. I mean, they were expensive back in the day. My chiller, that's outdoor chiller, was the second most expensive piece of equipment. I mean, those were the two. Between the two of them, I remember, I think I spent over close to $4,000, which was a lot of money, you know. But I have to say, is the two best things I've ever done because with halides without a big chiller,
Oh yeah.
and having a chiller inside the space where your tank is, your electricity bill is going to be even more because it's going to work. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
you know the way the refrigerant works, you're going to make the hot air hotter to cool down. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But those were that dozer was the best thing. You know, it wasn't even in the U.S. at the time. I had to bring it from Canada.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, 18 years ago, GHL. I don't. It was in Ottawa, Canada. They were the distributors for GHL.
Question for you, Joe. Do you like Andrew's koi?
Oh my God! I call them the sharks because that's how big they are.
Really?
They're huge, huge. They're beautiful, just beautiful. They're truly, truly beautiful. I mean, if you think the coral business and the hobby that we're in is expensive, think again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
Andrew's kind of living all of our little boys' fantasies, isn't he? Like if we won the lottery, what would I do? I'd do what Andrew.
No,
Sanders
but you know what? If
You won't have enough if you won the lottery.
But Andrew, if you get to know Andrew, like he have a simple life. I mean, this is what he loves. He's enjoying it to the full extreme. I mean, he doesn't have exotic cars. Not that he didn't have, he had them. He doesn't like going out and all. He doesn't, go golfing. He could be belonging to a golf, club that you'll be dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and play a game of golf. So this is what he loves. This is his everything. I mean, the question is, you're kind of like this home. You're never going to sell it because the amount of equipment and that he have in this house. I mean, we don't show enough videos of the pump room. Well, I call it the pump room. I mean, because the mechanicals and the pumps and the piping and everything is just
it's huge.
It's incredible.
Sometimes on the show, Joe, we talk to people about a tank that they've had built, like a custom tank, and we'll always say to people, if you were to do it again, like we talked about yours earlier on, and you were going to change it, what would you do differently? Is there anything that Andrew experiences now that if he was to do it all again, Polo Reef, he would change?
Bigger.
Okay.
Oh my God. Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
So, for an example, when I got there, right, he was having issues with gases in the water, TGP, right? And we when this place was built, I wasn't around, so and I'm looking at the plumbing, and I'm like, the amount of water volume coming down into the sump with such force. I mean, think about, we have an inch and a half coming from our overflow box into a sock, and it goes back up, right? So, and it's dropping right below your tank. Andrew, meanwhile, have two 10-inch pipes coming from a tank that are going about 150 feet away, and then it's going to get pumped back up. Now, do you realize the force of that water?
Yeah, that is a lot of
like
water.
Dropping, and it's being dropped a floor below, about 150 feet away, and in piping methods and elbows and turns, it's equivalent to 500 feet away, right? Because
Oh my God.
every elbow, every 90 degree, it's considered 5 to 10 feet, right?
Wow.
And I went with him to Florida, and we met with the guy who built the, like a bucket shower, like a degassing tower, for the Georgia Aquarium. And we were talking and having a drink. And he's saying, well, the water needs to be on top, not below, where it trickles out like spray, and it trickles out through bioballs and what have you, and it comes back into the tank. And that's how you get rid of all the degassing, right? The gases. First of all, the place wasn't built for such a thing, nor do we have the space. So we do have a space. So we were contemplating on building a degassing tower over the sump in the basement. And we did models of this to see how we're going to bring it down there and how we're going to build it, blah, 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 blah. And I said, look, the pipes have to move no matter what, right? I said, but if we're going to move the pipes, I'm going to try something. I said, and if we take the pipe, the two 10-inch pipes, and now you're talking two 10-inch pipes off the overflow, but what about the two monster skimmers that we have? Same thing. Everything is going down there, right? I said, but what I want to do is I want to take the pipes down to the bottom of the sump, which is about 8 to 10 feet deep, and turn them and come up with 12 inches and let it shoot the water up onto the surface like a fountain. I said, and I guarantee you that a lot of the gases are going to release just like that, because you're not forcing water inside water. And let me tell you, we did that, and we ended up not building a degassing tower because it almost solved the whole problem. So it's just a change in plumbing made a difference. Because I also had my own questions with these degassing towers where you're trickling water through bioballs, that these bioballs are exposed to air. So what about pollen or whatever enters, if it's, what bacteria is growing on these bioballs?
Plus, the method you just described is maintenance free as well.
It's maintenance free. And it's still like that till today. And the pipes at some point have to be moved back to their original location, because we moved them kind of like temporarily to build the gassing tower. So this is what happens when you're dealing with a monster of a tank. I mean, so when I said bigger, that's what I mean. Like the pump room is huge. It's not big enough anymore.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. Are there any plans for any more expansion that you know of?
Oh,
that you
no.
can share with us? No?
No, I mean, the next thing, if anything will happen, will be another koi pond.
I'm finding the whole clam thing really interesting at the minute. All the work he's doing with the clam investigations and research.
The clams, we can't figure out. I think it's all bacterial. I think clams. Yeah, I think being that we, I think it's all bacterial.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I'd have to agree with that. I've had two clams in this tank. One was giant, really old. Brought in a new clam, smaller clam, within 3 months. the big one died, and then a month later the other one died, and I've left with the original clam that I put in, the last one in.
I think
And I know another reefer, and it happened exactly the same to him. He lost all his clams by introducing another clam.
Oh, wow.
the aquaculture clams are much better, and I think, successful in the hobby than the wild clams. Wild clams, you could buy 20. All you need is one to be infected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we took we had the vet swipe them and took cultures, and we put them in like a bath. It doesn't matter. And we've done the GFO. I mean, we thought that the GFO, it did help when I did that, like homemade kind of filtration thing. Because when we were doing, think about it. When we do GFO there, we use 10 2.5 gallon row of buckets. Okay, it's not like a small, bag. So the small particles, no matter how, it will find a way through. So we kind of thought that maybe that is getting into the clam. So we did a thing that we kind of like filtered it to be pure, not getting there.
Yeah.
It did help. Every change we did so far, it seems to help, that prolonged the clams to live longer. But eventually they still died. Now, we just installed a air pump that helps the gassing, and it's doing an incredible job. So maybe it's the TGP. We don't know. But people who have white clams, they all have problems.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what kind of light are these clams under?
Halides.
Okay.
Yeah, we've tried LEDs, we've tried T5s. The best they've done is under halides. Don, I hate to say it, there's nothing like halides for everything.
Well, my success of keeping clam just nosedive after I get rid of halide. When I have halide,
really?
I can grow big. Yeah, I can grow big clams.
Yeah,
Actually, one of the clams grew so big that I have to donate it to aquarium to carry
because
out the
everyone
lid of the bucket.
everyone
But
keeps
not anymore.
everyone forgets about the UV, and no one likes to talk about it.
Okay.
I kind of believe that the UV has something to do with clam, because clam dust, in a low tide, the clam actually exposed, is getting the full dose of sunlight. So that's a huge amount of UV light shining on the clam.
But they're generally closed up if they're exposed, do they not? They were closing their mantle.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Yes, but also they're pretty shallow as well in the water.
But yeah, they're yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, touch wood. Then I've had all my 5 clams for about 3 years now under Radion LED lighting. All seem to be doing really good. They've got huge.
I think you're just lucky. I think Joe's right. I think it's just literally contamination from another source.
Don't buy any more, because
No,
you could add one and you kill them all.
Right.
oh yeah, the
And it
pigmental
depends
disease.
also. I mean, like a Durazo clam, it's much easier to keep than a Maxima clam.
Yeah, 3 of them are Dorisas, yeah.
Yeah, so it depends, but Maximas, it's very difficult, especially the wild ones. We have them, like the aquacultured ones, they're doing fine, but in the wild ones, it's like they're good for a good amount of time. Another thing is this, and I think this is another thing that at some point, and we and Andrew have been talking about it, and this is goes back to the question of what you said, is like, this is what makes a team, right? Clams needs to have their own tank.
Right.
Okay. So we're trying to grow so many things in one box of water.
Yeah.
So
They call mixed reef.
yes, but if you were trying to grow clams in a clam tank only, see that tank, the clam tank we have there, that's hooked up to the 17,000. So it's not its own system.
Oh, right.
So I believe it needs to have its own thing. And this way, if you're doing phyto and I think clams kind of like dirtier water, you know, in a sense. Like, we have a tank, we have lights above it, but maybe the lights are too close. Maybe the lights should be higher. There's many things that I would like to try and play with. Like, have you never noticed, like, when you go to these aquaculture areas, their halides, their LED lights, they're about 4 feet above the water level,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
My lights are, I'm lucky if they're 16 inches above the water level.
Mm.
So is it making a difference when a halide is that close to the water onto a clam? There's many things that,
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to play with. Like if you went to Where the White Coral or Top Shelf or, Route 66, they're light about 6 feet up in the air, regardless of what they are, LEDs or halides. So the dispersion of the light is not like hitting the water in such a concentrated way. It's hitting the water, I think, in a different way. I don't know. But these are all only like thoughts. They're not practices. So
this is why it's cool you're doing your things, because you'll no doubt share any progress you find, right?
yeah, exactly. And it's gonna be another experiment at some point or another.
We'll talk about experimenting, which leads me on to something I was going to ask you, Joe. On the picture that Stefan kindly shared of me of your tank that I used on the YouTube thumbnail the other day, I noticed round the sort of the framework, or sort of around the edge of the tank, there was a piece of reefing apparatus resting there, and it was made by a company called Hannah, and it's a salinity pen. Are my eyes deceiving me, or is that something I saw?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay. And do you use it for salinity, or do you use it for stirring your coffee?
I use it for salinity. I test my water every day with it because salinity can change and does change. And it's something that, maybe we don't pay attention to, even though I have the probes, but the probes, if they're not calibrated, the probe could be giving you the wrong reading. And probes needs to be replaced also. And that's where I hate spending the money, because I'm spending money on a probe that it's also going to give me a false reading every now and then. So I rather test. So speaking of salinity, where I think it's also important, especially with SPSs, I don't think it should be that high either. I mean, 1024, 1025 max, where I think based on that is based all on your alkalinity and all of that is where I found my tank to do the best.
That's interesting. Right, okay. All right.
So, Joe, do you see so I have a question.
Go
So,
for it, Don. Go for it.
okay, all right, thank you. So, do you see that the polyp extension somehow link associated with the salinity?
Don't know. I mean, I try to keep it like the same because salinity, I think it's no different than any other thing to keep it, consistent, But I did notice the polyp extension definitely better at 7.7.
GKH.
That's like really the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. When it goes to 8, it's not as sweet for some reason.
People running different levels of salinity. 0.26.
Yeah, this guy is running at
0.25.
102.6. I recommend that you don't, because this is what happens. It's like, look, when a young reefer asked me starting out and told me where do I keep my alkalinity, I will tell him 8 to 8.5.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason I say that is that this way he have room, for buffer to make a mistake.
The range.
Okay?
Yeah.
When you're at 7.5, 7.7, you really have no room.
Yes.
For someone like me, anal and dedicated and constantly checking, okay. But I would never say that to a beginner. You get stable, get disciplined, and then you could, Now with that guy that wrote that he keeps his water at 1026,
Eric, yeah.
What about if you go to 1027? What's going to happen? If your top off empties and you weren't home and it kept climbing on you, 1027 goes to 1028, things are going to die, So the best you can be is 1025. This way you have a point up and a point down and you're safe. And that's where I like.
Do you see that the same as temperature then?
Yes. So you have a buffer that something happens, you have time. You have some time, to correct it. But now if you're keeping alkalinity at, I can believe that in the past we kept alkalinity in the 10, 12, 14. Red Sea makes a bucket that was, I think, 14 DKH.
Yeah.
If you are at 8 and you went up a point higher, you're at 9. You went up a point lower, you're at 7. You're still okay in a sense.
Yeah.
So that's, what I kind of like tell reefers to do and to be, play it safe, play a safe zone, because you're dealing with animals that are not going to like it, and they're not going to tell you they don't like it until a month later, and when it dies you think that's something else. It could be that alkalinity swing,
Not just that, but a lot of it can be depend on how accurate you're actually doing your testing as well.
And that's why I test salinity every day as well, because my tank doesn't evaporate a lot for some reason. I don't know why.
There's no water in it, Joe. It's just coral and rock.
Yeah. I don't have much water. What else did Stefan tell you? Did he tell you that I'm a Manchester United fan?
No, he didn't. He didn't tell us. Manchester United fan.
Yeah, I used to come to Manchester every year.
Okay. Well, there'll be a few comments in. There'll be a few comments.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get attacked. I'm gonna get attacked.
You're gonna get attacked. Yes.
So
definitely.
I used to come to England every year. I met David Beckham at 16.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Not when you were 16, obviously the other way around. Yeah.
No, when he was, when they were him, the Nevilles and Giggs and all of them, and I
Nice.
went with them to San Siro, Italy, as a fan when they won the Champions League.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
You've probably been
so
to
when,
Manchester more times than most Manchester United fans, to be fair.
when I met Stefan and he was wearing the Leeds United jacket, I was like, whoa, what are you doing here?
Brilliant.
Yeah, he's a
So
good
you're
guy,
gonna
man. I really like
That's
that
good
company,
fun.
man. When he was here with his wife Maria and her husband Akil, it was one of my best times in this hobby, meeting people like that.
Yeah. Good. Jamie, Dom, anything else for Tusi this evening before we wrap up?
I could do another 4 hours with Joe, but
Yeah.
I'm not going nowhere, so
no, it's good. It's been really, honestly, it's been really interesting listening to you. And there's a few, I've definitely picked up a few things that I wasn't aware of before. The nighttime water changes is something I might have to have a go at. Every time we talk to someone, there's always something new that comes to the table that piques a bit of interest. So it's really, really good.
Everybody have a technique, and in this hobby, like I said, we complicate it. Okay, it's an easy hobby. It is a very easy hobby. People tell you, "Oh, it's so hard." It is a very easy hobby. We complicate it, and because we rush things, and things like that, a technique of doing a water change in the dark. I kind of like do it. Kind of like fell into doing it because it's something I could do when the lights are off. I don't have to wait for the lights to come on. And also, why not? Everybody, the fish are sleeping. Everybody's in
sleeping. Yep.
their home. Like, why not? Just
Well,
you
I
don't
question
have
that because I've got one. Sorry, I've got one fish that never sleeps, and it's my copper band. He just constantly, whenever I come down, 3 o'clock in the morning, put the landing the corridor light on, and he's just swimming around as if
because that's when he eats the most, believe it or not. The copper band, that's when he feeds the most. He's looking for pods. He's looking for anything that moves at night to eat, because I have the same one and he's constantly going around picking, so the thing is like, just the light and the heat and all of that with the top open and a fan blowing across the just get it done when none of that is taking place. And that's why I do it.
Fair enough. You set your tank up from scratch then. If you were going to set it up from scratch tomorrow, what would you do differently? You said less rock, more rock.
I think it's just a little bit less rock, meaning keep the rock lower.
Yeah.
Because I feel that I don't have much between the rock and the surface. It's a foot, I mean, what do I have? With the way the corals grow, they're going to be out of the water. My Slimer is out of the water. So if it was a little lower, I think it will be better. And also for the purpose of what we talked earlier about the flow. That the flow kind of like comes across above the coral, not into the coral.
Yep. Yes.
So that's, I think, the weakness of my tank. If I was to do it again, I think I would still do a closed loop. I will possibly situate power heads, in early on stages based on the rockscape. my tank is very difficult to access it. Very difficult. I mean, if I tell you, like I can access it only from the office side. To get onto the other side, I can only get there when I have 6 inches of less water on the surface. Otherwise, I can't reach.
Wow.
Otherwise, my head is going to be in the viewer, in the box, in the water.
My Ras has just gone to bed. If you could just see that big cloud.
It's
My Cornish Ras is just
it's
bedtime.
It's these are the things, the small things, but that's what you learn from doing it again and again and again. But having the right amount of rock is important, very important. I don't agree. I don't agree with the way we're going, where it's all open aquascape. And yes, the tank is going to be okay. Corals are going to grow, but you will see that at year number 4, 5, 6, you're going to have problems. Corals are not going to continue to perform. That's like what I always says, like how many hobbyists have we seen that they start a tank and they had an incredible tank, incredible. And then 4 years later, 5 years later, something happened, crashed, or corals died. Why? Because the biome and the surface is getting less and less and less as the corals are growing. So the only biome and bacteria is on the coral itself, but it's not enough to, nutrients and things like that. So
where do you go in terms of substrate then? Sand, no sand debate.
I would do sand.
Bottom.
I would stay
for this reason as well.
Yes, I would do sand. I mean, I maintain it with Nassara snails, and it works. It's getting turned over, and then you have wrasses that are sleeping in it. It's getting turned over. The only areas that's not getting, let's say, turned over, and let's say detritus buildup, is in the areas if you have a cave and there's no flow hitting it, and things like that. But if it's not touched, nothing is going to happen. You could do more damage by adding a power head with a tank with a sand bed than anything. I mean, because you turn it over. But
so what about gravel vacuum then? So there's a lot of DOC conversation, gravel vacuum, trying to reduce. You said these pockets, these dead spots of detritus that build up in corners of your tank you can't probably get to normally, or don't have a power head near them. So should you be gravel vacuum, in your opinion?
If you don't do it from day one, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Then don't do it. Then let it be. But there's many things that back in the day when we had the trickle filters or the under gravel filters, right? And we removed them because we call them I think we call them nitrate traps.
Nitrate factory.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that we were right. I don't think that we completely were right about that. So think about the ocean, right? When the waves come and they splash against the rock, right? And the water goes back into the ocean. They splash on the rock and they go back into the ocean. What do you see growing on the rock? Algae. It doesn't die. So it's breaking against the rocks, dissolving whatever. There's many things I think that we're still learning, and I think that trickle filter, with The only thing that I'm not crazy about it was that if bacteria is exposed to the air, you know.
Okay.
But if there was to be that water to be oxygenated and it continues to have a good, wash down, where I think it could be, it's something that I think it will come back at some point.
You mentioned the bristle worm earlier. Sorry to rub salt in the wound, kind of thing. How expensive was its menu? Just out of interest.
What, the bobbit worm?
The bobbit worm, sorry.
Oh my God! You know how many Lenardi wrasses I bought that I disappeared?
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
You know, they go in the sand and
They
you
don't
see
come
them-
out.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, he used to go, and it was like around Thanksgiving when I saw him the first time. He used to go across the whole tank, and they don't leave their main spot. In other words, their tail is locked into that spot. In other words, they extend, but their tail is attached to that spot, so they can retract quickly back.
Yeah.
And then when I knew I had him for sure was when I came down at like 4 a.m. with a red flashlight, because fish and they don't see red.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was basically all the way from the bottom of my tank all the way through the rockscape to the top and the overflow, munching on the top.
Ugh.
And it's when I said to my wife, I have a problem. Yeah, it costed me a lot of money, that guy. I mean, I could not keep an Anardi alive. I could not keep a Femininus alive. And I'm like, if everybody can keep him, why can't I keep him alive?
Yeah.
And since then, it's never a problem.
At least it wasn't your fault. It's
Yeah,
nothing
right.
worse than having fish die and not knowing why.
Yeah, not knowing why or not finding it. That's the whole thing. I was not finding any of these fish.
Yeah. Ouch.
Wow. Yeah. Tim, I don't know whether Tim's still in the comments now. Wakefield Reefer, not far from me. He's spotted that he's got one in one of his tanks, and he wants to keep it. I've told him he needs to get rid of it, but he's actually feeding it, and he's enjoying feeding it like something off Alien. He's enjoying.
They are
feeding it.
awesome animals. Don't get me wrong; they're awesome animals to look at and study. But you don't want it in your reef tank.
If you're gonna have fish with it and things like that, you're doing a disservice to the fish, because they're gonna get eaten at some point or another. They're gonna get eaten. It's just it's almost no different than having a bad crab.
Yeah.
They know when the fish, are where they sleep. Now I grant you that wrasses, they formed that fairy wrasses, they formed that cocoon to kind of like protect against predators, because that's what that cocoon that they sleep in is. So this way they predators don't get close to it. I don't know how, but I've had a couple of bad crabs in the past also, that they're easier to enter into your tank through buying a piece of live rock or a coral on a rock. And I mean, acropora bad crabs, they come very much easier than anything. I mean, those you have to watch, because they'll eat your acros in front of your eyes, and then you think that you
out as well.
then you think you have pests, eating it, and meanwhile it's you think you have flatworms, and meanwhile it's a freaking crab.
Yeah, I've had plenty of run-ins with gorilla crabs and teddy bear crabs and whatever else they are. Furry legs, never good. Yazan Reef is asking, I've got a bare bottom now. I've had a bare bottom now for a while. Thanks for sharing that with us. But I don't like the look. What do you guys think of calcium reactive media as a substrate?
It's too thick. I have a small, tiny nano tank where I use that same media in it, and the reason I use it is because I have mushrooms in there. So basically, if you want like mushrooms to attach, you throw it on a substrate like that, and it will attach to it, and then you could pull it out and put it on a frac plug. But there's nothing wrong with it, but you will not be able to buy any wrasses that sleep in the sand bed because that substrate is too big for them. The fish will get hurt. It's also harder to vacuum if you were to choose to vacuum it.
Yeah.
That's what I've got in the tap behind me. It is harder to vacuum, but the chorus wrasse does sleep in it, which I was shocked about.
The substrate you have in the tank behind you is also big.
Very big. Did it on purpose for flow because I didn't want loads of sand dunes. I wanted to ramp up the flow and I didn't want to have loads of dead spots.
Yeah. So you don't have any wrasses that sleep in the sand bed, do you?
I have a chorus wrasse that sleeps
and
in the ground.
And he goes in it? Holy schmoly.
Yeah, that was what I was saying. About 10 minutes ago, there was a big cloud of dust behind me and it just went straight in. And she's an absolute nightmare because that Raja Rampage that you... Oh, hang on. There. That one. She flips that. It's not glued down. She can flip that all the time.
Huh.
So the amount of strength in that fish is unreal. It's one of the... Yeah. Anyway,
you know
it's a nightmare because whenever I put frags in, I have to put them in the sump on a rack because as soon as I put frags in here, she's just constantly tossing them over and over and over again. So.
Yeah. The most expensive fish that I've ever spent money on is the Dragula goby because I was possessed when I started out with it to keep it alive, and I could not keep it alive until someone told me that it needs to be with a pistol shrimp. So when I put it with a pistol shrimp, then it lived. But I don't know how many I bought. Without a pistol shrimp, it gets all messed up.
Yeah,
definitely. Right, we're on to the 3-hour mark, gentlemen. I'm going to wrap us up there because I'm getting ready for my bedtime. I'm going to get my pajamas on and get straight to bed. And all the usual. Don's going to get his disco shoes on. He's going out tonight. But Joe, thanks ever so much again. Thanks for sharing a 3-hour stint with us. It'd be good to get you back on again at some point, mate, with some other guests as well.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Brilliant.
I always have fun with these type of things. I told Don the other day, I can't wait.
Well, we try and keep it a little bit fun and not too serious. But thanks for sharing and thanks for being part of it. And thanks to those of you as well in the comments that have emailed in some reefing questions to us. We appreciate you're not all able to join us live. For those of you that do watch the channel back. So having said that, we do appreciate your support and want to keep you as involved as possible. So next Friday, we're going to go over some of the questions that have been left behind, Don, in some of the previous streams in the comments section, and also questions that have been emailed into us. But if you do have any questions that you want to share, then please do email them into us, as I've just said, at thereefersnetwork@gmail.com. Alternatively, drop us a DM, and Don will do his best. He's putting a slide together already for some of the questions that some of the viewers live and sort of past, should I say, watching streams have put together to him. So hopefully that'll be Friday's a bit of a Q&A, briefing Q&A, Don. We get this.
Yep, absolutely.
Are we doing a Christmas jumper next Friday, Jamie? Don, you up for it? Christmas jumper?
I'm sure I can find a Christmas jumper.
Okay. But no, that's what we're going to be doing next.
Was that Boxing Day?
No, it's just a Christmas theme. We're just going to wear a Christmas jumper because we're on the countdown now. So it's going to be in December now. So I mean, it is. I mean, I don't know what you guys do in the States, but there's a little bit of controversy at the minute about how early it is you should put a Christmas tree and Christmas decorations up. I asked this last Friday, and I think it was a bit 50-50. I know you guys obviously just had Thanksgiving, so Don was saying as soon as Thanksgiving, then it starts Christmas. So on that note, I thought, why not next Friday? We'll have a little bit. We'll start the Christmas theme, Christmas cheer, and all that. But no, Joe, thanks ever so much one last time for joining us. Absolute stupendous to have you on the show. We honestly, when you replied back and said, "Yeah," I was like, "Has he got the right guy?" Surely not.
Thank you for having me, guys. I mean, I really enjoy these shows, and it's just talk. It's like
exactly. It's healthy for the soul.
It helps the young reefer, feel more comfortable in his doings, because that's another thing that I feel bad to some of these young kids, where they're afraid to ask questions. So you almost want to answer the questions that they don't ask, and that's basically what I enjoy doing. This is not like I said, I am no better than anybody. I just have a tank like everybody else. Just don't overdo things.
It's a really, really nice one.
Well, that just happened. Just don't overdo it, and everything will be fine.
Well, thank you ever so much once again. Happy Friday for whatever's left of your Friday evening, wherever you are around the world. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Tusi. And thanks to those 60, 70, 1.80 that have tuned in this Friday afternoon, evening to join us. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, what's left of it. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you all next Friday. See you soon.
You guys, man. Goodbye. Bye, guys.